Hey, thanks for stopping by my neck of the woods. I'm the gig geezer in Wood Lane, and when I'm out there driving, I'm out there to make some money. I want to help you maximize your gig hustle.
One of the most common things that we deal with as a gig driver are fraudulent customers. Fraudulent customers make it bad not only for the gig company, but for us, the drivers. And the drivers seemingly are the ones who always end up holding the short end of the stick. The most common fraudulent act by customers are those who claim they did not get their order in its entirety. It's been my experience, the likely apps that this occur is Instacart and DoorDash. Well, often what happens is that they make these claims and the companies attempt to go above and beyond, and they're doing the right thing by refunding parts of the order or the entire order and giving them free money basically to use their app again. So what is the expense to the driver with these fraudulent claims? The most likely thing is a bad rating, likely tips taken back if they were on Instacart, possible account being placed on pause or suspension, temporary suspension that is, until the matter is investigated, and possible deactivation from the app, and not just temporary deactivation, but permanent deactivation. Now, there's also the other fraudulent thing that's known as tip baiting. You hear a lot of this on Instacart, in that what's done is, if you're new to the gig economy or you just never have heard the term, well, what will happen is that a driver, a shopper will see a very nice order, and within that order, they'll see a very nice tip. Now, the driver is going to go above and beyond to do what they need to do in order to complete the order. They drop off the order and they move on. They go back. All of a sudden, there's either most or all of the tip has been withdrawn back by the customer. So they've been tip baited. And unfortunately, in just about every case that I've heard of in tip baiting, the customer actually can do this with impunity. Impunity meaning that there's no repercussions for their tip baiting, because the app, the Instacart, allows for a customer to go back and change the tip. They can either change it to it being less or more. Another gig app company that I feel allows for tip baiting is BiteSquad. Now, BiteSquad, how they do it is that when you see an order request come your way, it will also say that there is a cash tip. The customer is going to give you a cash tip. I feel, in my experience, that cash tips on the BiteSquad app is nothing more than thirst bait, and I try to avoid cash tip offers at all costs. And it's been my experience that the customer is likely to actually give you the cash tip less than half of the time. I'd say even less than 40% of the time. And when you actually go and you deliver the order, the customer pretty much is like, yeah, thanks for my food, and they pretty much shrug their shoulders and walk off. And you're like, this person's supposed to give you a cash tip. Well, I don't confront them because it's not even worth it over whatever they're going to give you. And typically what I've learned very quickly to do with BiteSquad is I don't accept orders of no less than $9, because I feel that an order of $9 and also fitting within my parameters of the estimated arrival time to delivery time being 19 minutes or less, I feel that if I get $9 out of it, then I got a nominal order anyway, and that if I miss the cash tip, well, I'll get that back and more on the next order if I do choose to accept another BiteSquad order, or as in my multi-apping somewhere else. Now, let's get into some actual examples of me catching customers in their fraudulent acts. Now, the first example of me My first example of catching a customer in their fraudulent act occurred back in this past July, this past summer, on an Instacart order. This particular Instacart order was a triple stacked order for, of course, decent money. But what actually caused this to occur, which is maybe on my part though, is the fact that Instacart, when it gives you a triple stacked order or even a stacked order, they will suggest a certain route that you take. They'll say you need to go to drop off to customer A, then B, then C. In this particular example, that did not make logistical sense. What made sense to me logistically was dropping off to customer C, then B, then A. The customer in question was customer B. And after dropping off to customer C, I went over to customer B, dropped off her items, and then for some reason my instinct said, go and check, just go back and check what did you drop off? Or do you remember dropping off all these items? And then it dawned on me, I didn't have all the items. And then I rushed back to customer C, over to her place. She was like 5-7 minutes away from customer B. Upon ringing the doorbell and all, she comes out with the bag, hands it to me, and then I make a mad race over to customer B's place. In that time as well, I contacted Instacart and shared with them that I mistakenly missed items upon dropping off to customer B, but that I had since gone and gotten the items and was en route to customer B's place. Well, Instacart informed me that customer B had already contacted them, made the claim of missing items, and Instacart immediately, of course, gave her a refund of those items. So now she's put in the report of missing items. Then, after completing the order, she took back all but $1 of the tip and, of course, gave me a bad rating. Well, in my interaction with Instacart support, which you can only do by messaging on the app, I shared with them that I had retrieved the missing items, placed them at her place, took a picture of them of my own, and went on to drop off customer A. What came out of it was that Instacart protected me from a bad rating, and they made sure that if I were to accept any order that would have paired me with that customer, I would not be paired with that customer. So I came out of that missing a little money, but I managed to spare my rating and my active status with Instacart. The second example of me catching a fraudulent customer was on GrubHub. In this particular case, I noticed after dropping off an order to this guy that the order was supposedly canceled. Now with GrubHub, fortunately, once you deliver the order, or you picked up an order, or you've delivered the order, and they say the customer had canceled the order, you're still gonna get paid anyway. And that's the same thing with DoorDash as well. If you pick up an order and you're on your way there, and the customer decides to cancel the order, you still get paid the full amount because you went and picked up the order. Well, the second time I happened to pick up from this guy, it was at a Hooters, which is not far from where I live. And actually from this actual place where I'm shooting this particular segment of the Gig Geezer, the guy claims that what happened was the order was canceled. Typically with GrubHub, an order is canceled when the customer decides that they don't want the order, or they claim that they did not get the order from the driver. Well, what made this one curious is that I handed the customer the order. I remember specifically placing it in his hand. So now I'm a little miffed. I contact GrubHub, and first thing they ask me, do you have the order number? Now, as a driver, are you thinking about an order number when you're trying to make your money out there, especially at nighttime on a busy night? You're not thinking about that stuff. So that went nowhere. So I get another order a few days later for the same person. And when I picked up the order, On the next page, after you've accepted the order and you've marked the order as picked up, I believe that with GrubHub, there's the order number on that page. So I took a screenshot of that. So I had that just in case the person decides to do something fraudulent. So true to form, as I anticipated, the guy claimed the order was not delivered. He canceled the order. So this time I contact GrubHub with the order number, and I explained to him that this guy is very inveterate. That's your $10 word today, inveterate, which means habitual, continuous, obstinate, dead set in their ways. Very habitual crook. I explained to him that I'd had this issue on 2 other occasions where this guy claimed the order was not delivered and canceled, but yet they were delivered. Now that's an unusual pattern right there with the same driver or with other drivers by the same customer. GrubHub made notation, but that's it. So a 4th time occurred. This was on a Sunday morning. As soon as I recognized that it was this guy, I went through my little steps of taking a screenshot of the order with the order number. Then I contacted GrubHub support, and I told them, hey, be on the lookout for this guy. This guy has been engaging in fraudulent, suspicious activity by canceling orders after they've been delivered. And they're like, okay, yeah. Well, 40 minutes later, guess what? Yes, he claimed the order was not delivered and had it canceled. So immediately, I contact GrubHub support, and I give them, and they've got a little history of me calling on this customer. And now they're saying, you're right. This guy's been engaging in fraudulent activity. So we got to escalate this to another level. Well, here's what happened. Yes. About a month or so later, I get another order request. Well, actually not a month, about a couple of weeks later, I see another order request with this guy. So I got rid of that one. Then I see it again, the same guy. So it was clearly evident to me that yes, GrubHub made notations, but they did nothing with this carrier. This time around, what I did was when I handed the order off to this guy because he asked that it be handed to him, I took pictures of this interaction. And since then, I've delivered to him again, but I have not seen where any orders have been canceled. So I caught him in his own game. And I think at least with me, he knows that I'm gonna document any exchange that occurs with him. Now, here's another example. This was an Instacart order. It was a delivery to an apartment complex. What made this order suspicious with me before even dropping off was that the person asked that the order be handed to them and that I called beforehand. So I did as the customer instructed. And here's something that I suggest, and I've seen this being articulated or communicated by other drivers on their channels. Hey, it doesn't hurt to pay attention to the special instructions that the customer give, because that may be the difference between you getting an actual tip, a good rating, or whatever. And it may help you in actually delivering the order in a more timely and efficient manner. I copy and pasted the person's number, and I tried to call. Well, it turned out to be an out-of-state number that did not connect. Well, I was unable to reach the person by calling them. Then I text messaged them. Same thing, no response. Then I tried messaging the customer through the app. Well, what also made this more curious now was that with this being an apartment drop-off, there's always the possibility that a customer is going to claim that they didn't get the order because you dropped it off to the wrong apartment. So upon dropping off this order, and because I was unable to reach the customer, I was not going to take back the order for a refund because I didn't know that you could at the time. So what I did was I placed the items at the door. I took a picture inside the app and made a message to them saying order delivered. And then I took another picture outside of the app of for my personal documentation. Well, what I also decided to do was contact Instacart on this to let them know that I tried to reach this customer. I have concerns that this customer may claim items missing, and that I may get a low rating. And they said, well, let me check. They sent message back, well, let me check on this. Well, guess what? The customer claims that they didn't get the entire order. And I'm like, no, that is not true. That is fraudulent. And so then the app asked, the rep asked me if I wanted to place a claim. And I'm like, you got that right. I do want to place a claim. And so then he asked, so the rep asked, did you have a picture? Do you have a picture of the delivery? And I'm like, yes. And I sent it to him. And he's like, well, thank you for that information. And then I said, well, this was to apartment, whatever it was, top, second floor. There it is. And that's like, yes, that's the exact drop-off location. Okay, so what came out of that was Instacart said that they would not pair me with that customer again. They said you may get an email about missing order in its entirety, but because you've documented it, it's already been documented, don't worry about it. And that's exactly what happened. The last example actually occurred earlier this week on Monday the 17th or Tuesday the 18th, I forget which day. But upon accepting the order and going inside the store, I looked at the person's name and I'm like, there's something about this person that just seems to be trouble. And lo and behold, this person was trouble. While I'm attempting to complete the order, the customer added at least 12 more items. There were, according to the app, 15 substitutions and 3 refunds. This person drove me up the wall during this particular shopping order. It got to a point that I was cursing and wanting to spike my phone on the floor. But I know that my phone is my money, so I didn't do it. But this person was just absolute trouble with all these changes. I mean, this is where somebody is vituperative, abusive. They're abusing the app. Well, this customer drove me up the wall. I mean, with all the substitutions, with all the additions, and then with the refunds, and then with some of the questions the customer asked and all that stuff. Somehow I managed to get to the register to check out the order so that I could shut off any other communication by that customer. What I missed though was right after I paid for the order, the customer actually sent me a message about another substitution. I told her, well, they were out of it. And the person said, okay. Well, I get to the car now, and then there's another message. She's got a picture sent to me with the item circled. That's what it was. Well, I apologized to the customer because I actually missed it. I simply missed it. I think because the customer had driven me up the wall with all this stuff, I decided that I was going to get out of this one as quick as I could. I was just tired of all the insanity. Well, right after that, I decided to contact Instacart support. And I shared with them that I had an inordinate amount of substitutions, an inordinate amount of added items and refunds. And I told them that I am concerned that this customer may try to give me a low rating or try to take back the tip and all, and please make these notations. Well, I wasn't all that entirely satisfied with what that first rep did, so I went back an hour or so later, which was right after I completed my first half hustle, and I made the same communication with Instacart again. Same concern, articulating that I'm concerned about this customer giving me a bad rating with all the high number of substitutions, additions of orders, and refunds. That this person may try to give me may give me a bad rating. So they made that notation. Well, I look into the app the next day. This person had claimed there were 16 missing items. 16. The only good thing the good things that came out was that the customer did not pull back on the tip, and my rating was spared. If anything out of what I've shared with you, with me catching actual customers in their fraudulent acts, there are 5 things I think you need to take away. Number 1, always contact driver support sooner than later. Number 2, listen to your instincts. And the reason, go back to point number 1, always contact driver support sooner than later. Number 3, provide as much documentation as you can. Pictures of delivery location, details of descriptions, meaning screenshots of the actual order or the actual items. Some people use body cams or dash cam footage, although I've been told in the past on certain apps that they don't take that into consideration. But do it. As much documentation as you can on your part can actually save you from being deactivated or having a bad rating or all the above. Truth be said, the takeaway from all this is that the customer is going to do it again. Also, there is a very high percentage chance, unless the only way I think that a customer will actually be banned off the app is if this stuff makes it in the news where the customer is being reported for engaging in a ring or a high dollar ring of fraudulent activity. If it's a $50, $100 order or something like that, I don't think these apps could really care. Now, the last thing, again, your acting sooner than later is likely to spare your driver rating and your active status on these apps. And so with that, that's all I have for this particular segment. I'm Inwood Lane, and may your hustle continue.
Thank you for checking out this segment of the Gig Geezer. If you like the content that's been provided, hey, hit that subscribe button and also give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or useful information that you'd like to pass on to the Gig Geezer, I can be reached at giggeezer3.5@gmail.com.